Okay, so we're back, and it's actually Sunday. That's the t-shirt color change. Um, so yeah, I ended up just relaxing last night. My wife and I went and had some delicious sushi, and um, we just hung out with our dog and had a little date night. So it was good. But now I'm back. It's Sunday afternoon. My wife is out studying and working on some optometry stuff. So yeah, I wanted to get back to it. So I think we just had two more sections to build. So this part should go fairly quickly. Then we'll make everything responsive, make it all look really nice on all the different devices. So, okay, let's get to it. Boom. Cool. So here's kind of where we left off um, yesterday. So we built out these sections, all the desktop sections. And we had left here is like these two sections right here, and I might end up building the other ones too, but I wanted to at least focus on these ones for now, to get them finalized. So in this one it's going to be a little more challenging because we have uh, this big image in the background, which is going to have to be a background image, and we'll have to account for that in the design. So this will be an interesting section to build out. I'm excited to do that though. Yeah. I was looking at the corner of this right here. It kind of looks like it's rounded. I don't know how that would look. Yeah, it might work. We'll play around with these a little bit later because they're going to end up being link blocks. So I'll go back and adjust those. Um, Let me think. I might do that real quick just because we're going to need that later on. So yeah, let's just drop these inside of a link block. So I'm just selecting that image and pressing A, dropping in that link block. And then I'm going to drop the image inside of the link. And I'll just do that again for each of these down here. So I'm just pressing A, clicking the link block, which whenever you select an element and then, or whenever you select an image or text and then you add a div block directly after without like dragging it onto the canvas, it just puts it directly underneath that. So it's usually just a faster workflow for me. It's one that I've enjoyed using. Allows me to move a little bit quicker. Cool. And that last one. Cool. There we go. And should probably give each of those a class. And we'll call that like drink link. Yeah, drink link works. And just set it to relative positioning because we're going to stack some other stuff inside of there later on. Cool. Just going to give them the same class, drink link. There we go. I'm copying the name here. Just being a little bit lazy. But not lazy, just being resourceful. There's a lot of copying and pasting when it comes to web development and web design in general. Cool. Okay, so this section is kind of similar to this one, but a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy it, the entire section. And let's collapse this. And I'm selecting the body element, so when I do that, if I paste, it puts it at the bottom. And we're going to get rid of this image. And in this row here, we're going to set it to have 3 columns. So let's go ahead and set it to have 3 columns. And drag this text over here. And let's just make sure we're referencing. Okay, cool. So I might adjust some flex settings on this. What's that say? It just says old Tom. Old Tom. And it's almost more like this right here. That should probably be H3s. Old Tom. Yeah, just copy this text. go and copy this text. Paste it over. Okay, so I think there's a line break at, okay, so but here at aviation. And where's that other one? There we go. And we want some some margin on top of this, or some padding within this column here. So we're going to add in a bit of padding on this. Just call it padded column. And I want to say that's like 45 pixels. Just about. Yeah, it looks about right. And now it's all about fitting in that background image. So this one's going to be the old Tom section. Just adding that combo class, and we're going to set a background image. Go find that old Tom photo. Did I export it? There it is. And we want to set it to cover. What happens if we do, yeah, let's go with cover. And we're going to want to add a little bit. This one's probably going to be a 150 top and bottom. 150 top bottom. And we want to make sure that this image is indeed centered. That's pretty important. Yeah, there we go. So there's nice and centered. Yeah, that's about how it looks. Yeah. We'll need to play around with that and make sure that it looks good on all the different breakpoints. But as we resize that, it should work out. Yeah, if it's looking good here, then it's probably looking good on the desktop breakpoint too. But we'll modify a few things as we do this. Cool. Now let's build out this footer. So I really love this footer. It's I don't know why I like footers so much, but I do. So, you know. So on this one, it's another one of those split designs. So it might even make sense to copy this just as like a starting point. Or we can, let me think. We can build it from scratch too. I'm thinking how we should structure it. So it'll be, like, we're going to have that right side block again, like the dark background. And it's all one big section, which we'll make into a symbol. And on the bottom, we've got this text here, and then in the middle, we have the social links in that yellow box. Cool. Yeah, let's maybe just go ahead and copy this section. Cool, pasting that. And let's see, it's got that please fly responsibly. And this should not be an H2, it should probably be like a, let's see, like a H4. It's not going to have that Lucida heading. Just get rid of this. It can maybe be an H3. Yeah. Please fly responsibly. It is important. Only issue here is that we've still got this inside of a row. So I'm going to get rid of this right here. And now that I think about it, I might just make these like two side-by-side blocks. Probably just floated left or just flexed left. Yeah, let's do that instead, because this section is very different. Yeah, let's do that. But we still want it within that container. Let me think. Yeah, I think we can still pull it off from here. Let's see what we get. Kind of go from there. There are a bunch of different ways to go about building this. Because on mobile, this is likely going to stack. So might just do it like full on rows. Yeah, let me think about this. Yeah, let's maybe try that. I'll grab this out of here. And let's add in I'll just do half blocks. Half blocks are fine. Because we're going to flex it later on down the road, which is fine. So 50% width and float it. I know, right? I'm floating stuff. Why am I floating? It's okay. Don't worry about it. And it's going to have about like 75 pixels, maybe 50 pixels of padding inside of it. Let's go with 60. Yeah, sure. Where did it go? There we go. Cool. Gonna just delete this. And delete this. And this can be our other half block, or it's going to be a relative one. So I'm just going to duplicate this class. Half block, dark. Still going to float it left. And give it a min height of 100%. Let me think. Oh, we don't need to use floats on this. Let's have fun. Let's use flex. All the flex styles. Why not? Let's get rid of the float here. Cool. Yeah, let's flex it because that's going to make it a bit easier on us. And we're going to need to get rid of this 100% height because that's already styled by the flex styles. Cool, and this one's just going to be black. Cool beans. And 60 pixels of padding inside of it. Holding in that shift key. Okay. Let's copy this text. And drop that in here. And I'm going to set this to a flex style too, and vertical stacking. And I might actually, I think I'll add this into like a parent block or something. So I want these to be like a good size, like maybe give it like a min height of like 50 VH or so. Maybe 60 VH. Yeah. Make sure we're centering stuff. There we go. Cool. Might drop this inside of like something to make it a little bit smaller. So sized up size block or something. I don't know what to call it there. It's about like 70% of the width. And we still want that centered. Cool. That looks nice. And I'm just gonna like copy and paste this over here. And give this same kind of settings. And I want it to have white text inside of it. So when I made the style guide earlier, I didn't set the text to be defined by the color set on the parent element, which normally I do. So that's why we keep running into this issue where I have to like add a class to style that text. So it would be better to maybe go back to the style guide and modify that. Debating if I want to do that right now. Let me think. Yeah, we can do that later. Think. Yeah, let's be responsible. Design responsibly. So I'd like, okay, so for the paragraph element, I'm gonna remove this style because that way we can define it. Otherwise, let's see if that did the trick for us. Yeah, okay. And same with the heading. So each of those, like, essentially we're just getting rid of that global color on each of like the heading elements. We added that on. H3s or H4s are going to be that color, so I'll leave that one. Cool. But this should make it a little bit easier. Yeah, cool. And let's see. Let's zoom in on this right here. Find your connecting flight. This brand is so much fun. So this is going to be more of like an H4. Maybe even H5. Find your connecting flight, and what color is it? It's that AC. Which I think is this one. Yeah. And it's size 11. It's so tiny. And then we've got these two rows here. And we'll do that with Flexbox styles. So we're going to drop in div block. And this will be like the flex parent. Drop this in here and copy this text. And then we want to add in another div block because we're going to have a search element as well as that buy button. So I'm going to hold those. Let's make sure let's flex this real quick. Cool. And I'm going to add search to this, and we're going to style it up. Cool. So as soon as we did that, I created that search utility page, search results utility page. And we want to style this up to have that arrow instead of the word search inside of it. So we'll do that. I'm going to set this to like 50% of the width. Cool. And here's that search element parent. Take a look. Cool. So we want it to be, I think I can, yeah, I can flex this. And there's the input field, and it's just going to be enter zip. And I want the parent of this to also be 50%. There we go. And now this button is not going to have any text. It's just going to be, what's that, like 50 pixels? By like 50? Or maybe it was closer to like 60 pixels tall. Yeah. And we want this input field to be 60 pixels tall as well. And it's going to say enter zip. And we want this to be, remember those input fields, we always want them to be size 16. And we want the background color on this to be that color. Just going to copy and paste it in. I don't know if I already have it on the clipboard. I think, nope, we don't. So it's a new one. And it's going to have that background image of the little arrow. I think it was this one. Make that like 20 pixels wide. And we don't want it to repeat, but we do want it in the center. Go. And we want the background of this, we want the text to be black. And that placeholder text. Oh, wait, is it black? Placeholder text is going to be like the gray color. Yeah, it's this one. And it also has, let's see, the background color. We want that to be transparent. And it needs a border. Or let's do a drop shadow instead. Because the drop shadow is not going to add any like extra stuff here. And so, or like whenever you add margin or padding to something, it's going to like kind of move that around. You don't really want that happening. So you just want to have like 1 pixel of drop shadow, and you of course have to set the color. I thought it was, is that not the right one? Huh. That's interesting. I don't know why it's not setting it. Maybe I need to. It's almost like there is a border around it. There we go. Okay, yeah, so it had a set border on the search field already, but we just got rid of that. And then we want a little piece of text that sits in here. It's not going to be inside the search box, which is in this block, and it's just going to say or. I think. Yeah, and we're going to set this to flex vertical. And this one we want to the top, or it's going to be like top and bottom. It's centered. And I'm going to get rid of this class. There we go. And now we want another button. Button. And we don't want, oh wait, let's see, where's this extra? Oh, okay, there's like 15 pixels of margin on that. And there's probably, yeah, there's usually 10 pixels of margin coming from there. And the default paragraph element has like 10 pixels of padding, so I'm just going to remove that. And this button text is supposed to say "by now." By now. And that's what was feeling weird. So we definitely need a little bit more breathing room here. Yeah. And probably add some padding to this right here. Let's rename this. Like footer zip text. And I want this button here to be like full width, so I'm just going to set it to 100% width. 100%. There we go. And we wanted that at like 60 pixels height, right? That's about what it is in this design here. Or wait, no, it's 45 or 48 pixels. My bad. 48 pixels, so this has got to be 48 pixels. And this has got to be 48 pixels. And this probably doesn't have to be that wide anymore. I might make the arrow a little bit smaller. Let's make it like 15. Yeah. It's looking a little bit better. Cool. I kind of want this all to sit inside one div, so I'm going to make that, well, it should be sitting above this section here. Is there anything else that goes in here? Okay, we've got that little contact us portion, which we're going to put below. And some text. Oh, whoa. Move some stuff around by mistake. So I'm going to get rid of that. These are technically links, so let's make them links. And I want them to be set up to block. Oh, let's rename it to like footer link. And footer link. Add a little bit of margin on the bottom. 5 pixels. Cool. And I want to make sure that these match. So this one only has 15 pixels all around now. This only needs about 15. Cool. There we go. And then let's make sure these footer links look nice. The way they're styled up. Get rid of the underlines. Let's make this like 10 pixels. Yeah. And this needs, let's duplicate this here. It's like 45 pixels of padding there. And I'm going to set things to kind of like go towards the top instead on both of these. And let's add like 75 pixels or 100 pixels. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. That way they're just nice and aligned there. Change this to contact us. Cool. And now need to build out that little segment there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I wanted to make sure we're staying true to the design. So now you've got this little box in the bottom left with a bunch of text in there. All the legalese, if you will. And I'm just going to add like a little absolute box at the bottom here. Absolute bottom. Set it to absolute positioning and set it down to the bottom. And add a little bit of padding inside of it. And let's see. It's also got like that 70% width or so. We'll center it. Add in some text. And we can actually apply, should be able to apply those text styles here directly. Yeah. It's like size 11 font and font color. Is this one? Cool. And then we need that absolute bottom block for all the social media pieces. And this, oh, where did I put that? Oop. I want this to just like live within that section. Cool. Absolute social. It's usually the name I end up using for these types of boxes. It's centered and it's like 150 pixels wide, or maybe a little bit wider. And it's gonna have some padding, like 15 pixels of padding. And it's that yellow background color. And then we want to add in social links. Let's actually make this like 200 pixels. Yeah, or around there. Or, yeah, 180 looked about right at first. And now we're going to add in a little link block with an image inside of it. So I want to say the first one was like a tweet. Add that in here. Not sure if I did. There it is. Boom. And I'm just going to copy and paste this. And I'm going to use some flex styles on this. Kind of space them. Well, be centered like that. Oh, I should have given the link block a class. Just call it social. link and give it like 5 pixels of margin on each side. Maybe a little bit more, about 10. Let's make these like 25 by 25. And by default, let's see what happens if we style all images to be 100%. 100% width. Yeah, that works. Gonna end up making this box a little bit bigger. That's fine. Social link. Social link. Cool, and let's make this box a tiny bit bigger. Oop. Clicking the wrong keys. This PC. It's about 25 pixels. Yeah, there we go. I guess they are a bit smaller. I can maybe make these a little bit smaller. Maybe like 20 by 20, which is a really tiny click target. So be careful whenever you're making these. So now I selected that image and I'm going to change it to like Facebook and then Google. Whenever you're working with icons, it can be really challenging to get them all the same size. So I'll just add like a 20 pixel height on this. So sometimes it's easier just to set like a 20 pixel height on each one. Yeah, just like make them kind of line up, and you'll kind of play around with each of them. Let's see, what size are these? How big is this box if I go to the code? So it's 263, so it's much bigger than I actually have it right now. But I am designing it basically like a 15-inch monitor size. So I might make these a little smaller, like 15 by 15. And just removing these styles. Let's go to that all images one and get rid of this global style, 100% width, yeah. And make this about 15. Yeah, they're fairly small click targets, which is okay. But because of that, I'm going to go ahead and instead of using margin on all of these, I'm going to use padding. I'm just going to add like 10 pixels of padding around each one. Since I did that, I'm now going to have to make these a little bit bigger too. So now they're 35 by 35 each. This one is just too big. I don't know why social icons are so challenging. And this one should be in the middle anyways. Yeah, I think it's Twitter. Cool. There we go. Okay, so now we basically have that page built out. That went rather quickly. Yeah, there was only another like 30 minutes to finish up this section. So I wanted to spend a little more time on this navigation up here. So I don't know if it was initially intended to be a fixed nav, but I thought we could have some fun with it, like making it look really nice as you're scrolling through the page. Like maybe have it like kind of scrunch down and tuck in as you're scrolling down the page. So I'm thinking it would be a good way to do that. Okay, we've got the nav in there. Because when we go to mobile, it's going to end up like, I don't want this container necessarily. So I might add, instead of this container, I'm going to like drag these items out of here. don't want to delete them, just dragging them out. And let's add in, let's use a div block and give it that container class. Cool. And I think, yeah, container nav. And now we can drop everything inside of there. Cool. So this one is kind of like, we don't have any auto margin on it. So we'll need to add the auto margin on the left and right hand side. Cool. And let's see, I'm just going to kind of resize my window a tiny bit here. 1 second. Okay, make sure things don't look, they look a little bit out of proportion right now. Not quite as tall. Yeah, there we go. It's a little bit closer to the design. It kind of looks stretched out in the recording. So trying to get closer to like what it actually looks like. There we go. Cool. So this nav menu here. Let's see, what do we do? Okay, we gave it that width. Let's bring it in a little bit more. And I was thinking that what we can do is when it comes down, we can maybe use some like pixel widths on this instead. Let me think. Pardon me. Or we can add in an extra block that actually holds like this content here, because that's what we really want to style up. So yeah, let's do that. Let's add in div that's going to hold that content. It's going to hold the brand, link, and the nav menu. And then we're going to adjust this width here. Let's get rid of that. And we can give this like a flex style. There we go. Cool. And it's maybe, yeah, we don't need any extra padding on that necessarily. But I was thinking that like as we scroll down, it should probably turn white. So if we do that, then I do want a little bit of padding on it. So I'm going to give some padding on the left and right. Let's just do padding all around, like 10 pixels of padding. And I'm going to get rid of the padding from this container element on the left and right. Yeah, just so we've got everything still lining up nicely. And then, cool. So when what I want to have happen is when we scroll down, I want this to like have a white background and stay fixed on the page, and maybe we can adjust the height of the actual element. So let's rename this to like nav background. So let's add an interaction to the hero section for when we scroll. Let's see, scroll into view. So it's actually going to be a scroll out of view. I'm going to start an animation. Let's call this navigation. And I'm going to select this nav background and set its background color to go to white. So that's what it would look like on the page. And see, we could even add like a bottom border to it, but I think that might be a bit much. So I'll just leave it as is. I think it'll just look good with that background color. So it'll like kind of fade to it. And then when we scroll back into view here, start an animation, and it'll be, just going to duplicate this, call it navigation return. Cool. And set it to be transparent, like a white transparent. Yeah. go. So then, like when we're previewing it, we scroll out of view. Has that background that kind of comes up. I'm not super crazy about it right now. Yeah, it kind of makes me want to just like set it to a static nav because it doesn't add a ton of value doing that. Oh, unless we change the height. Yeah, let's also change the height. So go through there, and usually like height animations aren't the best, so I don't always recommend them. But in this case, it's a really minor one. So let's change the height here. So the height, we want it to be like 70, like 65. Let's do 65. And we'll want this image here too to change in size. Or we can change its scale. Scale down to like 0.6, maybe 0.5. Oops. 0.5. And these links here. Let's see. So right now that's all. Oh, we want all of this to happen together at the same time. And we want these links. We can maybe make these links scale to like 0.75, and we'll do it by the class. I don't know why they aren't still floating, because they should be floating. They're set to float right. The nav menu. I can adjust that. Let's get back to that animation. Okay, so that's adjusting there. And we want the nav menu to keep its width. Like 80%. Yeah, something like that. And maybe its height can be like 60 pixels, yeah. Or 65, that's what we had it at. There we go. And oh, I didn't want to animate this. Let's change that target. So let's change the target. We wanted to do that to the brand element. There we go. And I want it to like scale to the left. So to do that, with the brand element selected, give it like nav link or logo link. I'm going to change the transform origin to be on the left hand side, and that way it'll scale to the left instead of just like scaling in the center. Oop, wrong one. So the background changes, this changes, the nav links change, and the size changes. Set that width. That's like 80%. And I want the nav menu to have like flexbox styles. Yeah, it could also look good as like a strip where it's just like a background behind the nav links that kind of tucks in behind the aviation. But we're just playing around here. Yeah, now that I look at it, I don't really want to animate the links, but I do want to maybe just have the background behind the nav menu change colors. Yeah, so we can delete this nav link size change, and let's also get rid of this scale change, and let's get rid of this change, yeah. And the nav bar. Yeah, the size here. kind of looks nice when it goes to that 95. But maybe it would be better just to do that on like the nav menu. Have its background color change colors. all the color changing. Change that to white. And we can honestly get rid of this nav background. Oops. The nav background. Oh yeah, we don't want to do that because it's holding everything. But we can get rid of that right there. The size style and the background color to it. And I do want this nav menu to kind of like stretch all the way through. So let's give it a width because we don't really have one on it right now. 80% width. And we can give it some tiny bit of like negative margin, like negative 10 pixels, so that it kind of sits behind that. And then let's go back to this interaction. So navigation. Let's make sure that this has a higher Z index. You don't have to go too crazy with interactions to make them look good. It's often like the more subtle ones that look better. So yeah, the nav menu. And I want to set that initial state just so that it is. Let's change the initial state to a transparent white. Yeah, just so that the fade is a little bit cleaner. And yeah, I think that'll look good. I kind of like having some border radius on these. But we do kind of have like a lot of square stuff going on, so yeah, we'll keep it as is. And let's delete this. And I want to rename this. It's like nav menu change to white on scroll. And then at the top here, let's duplicate this. Nav menu back to transparent. Okay. And make sure that it's a white one. Otherwise, on Safari, you'll notice that it like goes like a dark color. It's like, what is happening right now? This locator link should not be linked here. The origins one is one that should be linked up to the home page. Cool. And I do want to add a bit of padding, since we did add like the 10 pixels of negative margin there. Cool. Now, so when we scroll down, kind of has that little background. Might look nice to have like a, maybe not make it quite as tall, but add in like a box shadow that shows up. Let me think. Can we do box shadows and interactions? I can't remember. There we go. Pardon me. Okay, we can do borders, but we can't do an opacity. So I'm going to add in like a fun little like box shadow div. So I'll call this just like box shadow. And it's going to be absolutely positioned and have 100% width, 100% height. And I want it to have a Z index of 0. And all the links, nav links, need to have a Z index of at least 1 so that it sits on top of those. Cool. And now this box shadow, we're going to add think it could look neat if it's like a dark box shadow. It's a black box shadow, but with the white outline kind of. So this will be 0 and a size of like maybe 3, and then I'll have like 1 pixel of white. I don't know. We'll play around with it. And I really want it to be, or I want this to be like sitting a little more back behind there, because I don't really want the box shadow on the other side. Let's modify that. So we do kind of want it to just have that distance of like 3 pixels. There. I might need a few different box shadows, which I think is fine to do. 0, and move it up 3. Yeah, and 1 more. Let's go down by 3, 0. Cool, and gonna have to tuck this in a little bit more behind there. Like 15 pixels, and so I'm gonna make this at least 15 pixels. Huh. Like 12 pixels, yeah. Cool. So I only want that to show up in the background as white. So I'm just going to give it an opacity of 0%. And we're going to go back into that interaction. And we're going to select that element and add an opacity style. So here it'll go to like 100% opacity. And we'll kind of play around with it, see if we like it or not. That is important to decide on that, if you like it. Cool. Give it its initial state of 0%. Drop that in here. Cool. And let's go set it to nav back with transparent, and we want to style that box shadow. Have an opacity of 0%. Cool. So now, when we scroll down, gets that little background color. It's pretty nice, but there's weird padding on the right. I think, is that from my Nav Links or? These shouldn't have any kind of margin on them. But they do. Let's see if we just remove this width. Yeah, that does it. Let me think. This box shadows all the way over to the right. Yeah, there's like a little piece that's kind of transparent there. Let's see if we can kind of set that to fill. I don't know if it's just 10 pixels that's really throwing that off or what. Maybe give it a max width of 80%. Or adjust it down. Yeah. Let's go 74%. What does that end up doing? There we go. There's a little bit of a hack there. to bring it in a tiny bit. Cool. Yeah, I'm still debating on it. Yeah, we could even like make it kind of collapse in. Oh man, adding that padding back, we're gonna have to adjust it a bit more as far as the width goes. The max width, 73 pixels, 73%. There we go, that does it. Or does it? Let's just add that to the box shadow. I don't know why I'm struggling so much. Just give it a white background. Cool. There we go. That'll fix everything. Cool. So I played around with that for far too long. Cool. But yeah, let's make this responsive real quick. So on mobile, I kind of like the menu sitting on the left-hand side there. It looks kind of good. I haven't quite decided yet. But this hero section, let's see, on this container, is that just base container class? Might get rid of a bit of this. So it's like 160. Get rid of a little bit of this bottom padding so I can open this up. 35 pixels. Yeah, I don't know if we have that margin. Oh, we do have the margin on the button. So bring that up. It's like 30 pixels there. Cool, that looks good. This section still kind of looks fun. So I might leave it as is. I might make the font a tiny bit smaller. I might start using view width units here. So like 5 VW, like 4 VW there. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Make sure that this container has enough padding in it. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Yeah, I can work on these sections a tiny bit. I want to make sure that our sections are definitely set to overflow hidden. This one still looks good. This one, I'm going to make this font a bit smaller. Smaller. Down to 4. And add like a tiny bit of padding. Cool. Go. And here I'm going to get rid of some of this. Let's make this like 50 pixels. Both of these. And we're going to have to add, you have to make the height. Let's make the height auto. And we're going to add, or let's make the min height 0 pixels. I'm just going to add in a lot more padding here, like 100 pixels of padding on each of these. The bottom. And let's adjust this right here. Because we really want this to fit. It's important that it fits in there. Let's think. Can make the widths on these a bit bigger. 80 pixels, yeah, or 80%. And set this one to 80%. We're gonna need some padding on the right, like 15%. Yeah, there we go. Just so it's not touching the social links. Cool. I want to get rid of that because those aren't aligned just right. Let's get rid of that top margin. Cool. And there we go. So That's all looking pretty good. And let's go here. We should also start playing with the nav here a bit, because when we open this up, it's gonna look a bit different. Well, I might make it come out from the left-hand side over left, or no, let's just leave it like this. So in the open state, let's make the button, I'm probably gonna make the button black here instead, with the white. Like, I'm gonna put some engine propellers in there. I think that would make a cool little hamburger nav. So let's style the menu button to be like 60 by 60 and give it black background color, or yeah, and let's add in like a propeller blade. Pardon me. Propeller blade. And these are gonna be like 45 by like 4, maybe. Yeah. And gonna be absolutely positioned and centered to the top. And let me think, how intense should we get with these? Let's make them look like propeller blades. I think that would be the most fun. I mean, most people would use like an SVG. I like using div blocks because you can just manipulate them a lot more. So that's what I'm gonna do. But I'm just positioning these a little bit. Let's make it like down by like 35 pixels. Maybe a bit less. Let's do like 23. And now let's add in like a left wing. Yeah, left wing of blade. I need to learn to spell blade. Blade. Cool. And it's going to be like 48% of the width. And I'm just going to float these and set it to a white color. And it's going to have like a, let's make this like 50% border radius, because then it kind of has that roundish color to it. It should. Why is it not showing up? You have to give it a height, 4 pixels. There we go. Yeah, so then it kind of looks like the prop of a plane. And then we want, I guess it doesn't matter, I'll just call this a blade. Yeah, there we go. Because then we're going to add in a little circle that goes next to that. Set a div, and it's just going to be like a 4x4, like the center piece, and float it. And it's going to have 4 pixels of border radius. And it's going to be white. Or it could even just have a border that's white. We can play around with it. Yeah, that looks kind of cool. And it should be like 2% width, so I might end up adjusting this. Let's make this like pixel based instead. So let's do like 30 pixels. Or no. Somewhere in the middle. Let's do 20 pixels, yeah. And copy the blade. Cool, now I've got a little propeller. And we want 2 of those. So I'm gonna copy and paste it. And select that second one. Propeller blade 2. Move it down a bit. The thing is that like usually propeller blades aren't gonna look like that exactly, like sitting on top of each other. But that's okay. We can have some fun. Yeah, I think it kind of feels on brand. It might feel off brand. I don't know. I kind of want it to have like all the same kind of styles as this, but it might be a bit much going on. And we could always float this over to the right hand side. But then just go to the open state, and I still want this to be like a black color. Maybe not full and black, or no. We could have it be like the silver inside of this. I don't know, I haven't decided. And then the nav menu. Let's have it have like a black background, or let's have it have a white background. Yeah, that's what it's gonna have with the box shadow and everything. And then I kind of want to keep this black. Yeah, let's do that. So I love animating these right here, hamburger menus. Are one of my favorite things to animate. So let's do that. So in order to do that, we have to select the nav bar parent element. So I've got that selected, and I was just arrowing up and down to select like children and then parent. So I have that parent element selected, and I'm gonna add a nav bar trigger. So when the nav bar opens, call it nav bar opens, we're going to kind of go a little crazy with the propeller, but we're going to move it down. Let's see, like 5 pixels or 6 pixels. Play with it, and select this one too. Move it down about 5 pixels, or move it up like -5 or -6 or 7 until they're like nicely aligned. It's difficult to tell. Yeah, the little label here is kind of in the way, but that's okay. And we want them to do that at the same time. And then we want them to kind of like spin in different directions. So let's add some rotation here. We could have them rotating at the same time, but it's rotating on the z-axis, so kind of do like 180 degrees, or like 230, 225 is usually the number. And then we want to select this one and have it rotate to let's do 225 positive. Yeah. So then they're kind of like moving like that. Let's do the rotation at the same time. I kind of like it in, out, back type animation for this. And let's make the move happen a bit faster. 0.25. Yeah. And it's okay for that to be, let's make that an ease. So that might be a little bit much. Let's make it like a 0.75 because that's kind of cool. Yeah. We could make this an ease too, just to like see what it looks like. Let me think. Do we want to do anything else here? I don't know if we want to make it like spin while it's open. That might be a little obnoxious. We could do that. To like make it look like it's really in motion, but we don't have to do that. Okay, so now we want to do the navbar close, and I'm just going to duplicate this, Change it to navbar close. And we want them to move back to where they were. 0. And rotate back to 0. Cool. So there we go. It's a fun little animation that happens. Yeah, cool. And okay, we keep going down breakpoints. So I want to make this font here a bit smaller, like a 5 view width or so. And yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's see, what width do we have this at? The slider. Let's adjust that width a tiny bit. And make sure this button is sitting on top. What is the Z index of? Oh, okay, it's a stacking context that we're dealing with, so we're gonna have to adjust this width here. Cool. And scroll on through, take a look at the page. So at this point, I'm gonna make these go to full width. So to do that, we're gonna set this to vertical layout. And let's see. So I had like 50, let's add 50 pixels here as well on the bottom. And we can change this width up. Cool. We still want people to watch that video. So it's pretty neat. I might adjust the order here by adjusting some flex styles, as well as let's change this to like a view width, to like 40 view width. Cool. And let's see if we change, we can kind of like reverse the layout a bit. So then the video is sitting up here, and I still want this one to be first, so I'll do override order, and I do want it to be placed first instead of, or yeah, if it's placed last, then it's going to change that up. Get rid of this negative margin. Just kind of reorganizing everything here. This isn't going to be 150 pixels. Let's do like 50 pixels of padding. And it's going to be a few pixels. Cool. Okay, so now the fun part is this section here, which I think was still looking good. Yeah, it was still looking good here on the tablet view. But we want to adjust it. So we had a flex column, and we want these to be vertical. And probably going to get rid of, well, we can still keep the right side. We're going to have to make some adjustments. Could just be like a row of all of these drinks. And yeah, let's just do that. Cool, so we'll adjust the width of this, or it can be down to 58%. And I want to select that right side element. Absolutely right. Make it like just about 42% because I can. This is still 50%, and I'm gonna get rid of this right side margin so it kind of floats to the right there. Add a tiny bit of margin. Let's make that view width like 15 view width. Yeah, nice. And go the entire like row elements. I don't think we ever gave them classes, but I do want like 50 pixels of margin between each of them to at least like space these out. And I'd prefer for the image to show up first. So let's set it to flex and vertical and reverse layout. Cool. And this flex column, let's just add some padding. 25 pixels of padding. Cool. And we want to apply that same class instead of rows. Let's call this drink row. Yeah. Drink row. Do that on the next one. Drink row. Drink row. Cool. And now in this one, this one's a little more tricky. So there's a few different ways we can go about doing this. Something that I like to do is, select this section, and I'm gonna instead add like padding to the top. So like 50% padding to the top here. And I'm gonna change the style of this to be 100% width. And I'm gonna set the image to be at the top here. So that way the image resizes really nicely the whole time. Add a little bit more padding. Cool, yeah. So it's like nice and responsive, looks good. This space right here shows up because we have that selected. Let's take a look. So this padding column, we can get rid of that padding. Cool, looks nice. And we've got this. I might move this over to the right here on the right hand side, but I'm actually gonna, let's stack these. Let's make it a vertical stack and change this to 100% width. Same with this piece to the right. And let's set this to 0. So they're just kind of sitting on the right there, and might do it like 50% instead. Yeah, because then it takes up that right side. We don't have to worry about any kind of odd behavior there exactly. Cool. There we go. And let's move to, or let's check out what the menu looks like. So I want this nav menu. Why is that? Ah, let's get rid of that. Let's make it like 100% width. Why is it not cooperating? 100 view width? Might be because of some flex styles. Oh, because this max is set to 0. Let's type in none. Cool. And it doesn't have to be over at all. And we can select the nav menu, get rid of this padding, and set it to be centered instead. And these don't need any kind of floats on them. Ah, they still have floats from here, but we have flexbox styles. Let's just drag a nav link out over here. Oh, we can't do that. Let's just add a link and give it a nav link class. It's not going to be happy with this. But it's to get rid of that float style. Cool. There we go. Now we got rid of the float style. Nice, yeah. And keep it open. Ooh. Not sure if I like it dropping down like that. I kind of want it over and to the right. Haven't decided. Let's change the width of these to like 25% and set this to, I still want them to be horizontal. Not sure why they're clearing. Might be just some of the styles that we're trying to overwrite here, and that's not working very well. It doesn't have to be in flex styles anymore, so we could just set it to display block, and then it should let us, yeah, then we can float these. To float left, yeah, cool. And we can center them. Yeah, it looks nice. Cool. And here we want that to be, okay, now we're on like mobile. Pardon me. So this is obnoxiously huge right now. I don't want it to be that big. Let's get rid of this padding here and make its width like 80 pixels. Yeah, or maybe 100 pixels, yeah. And set this, let's close it. Set the menu button. We're flexing this still, and it doesn't need to be flexed. Set it to display block, and set this to float right. Let's set it to absolute upper right. Inside of a container that's set to relative positioning. Oops. This hero section should be overflow hidden. All of these should be set overflow hidden. Yeah. Cool, and I'm going to position this a bit more. I don't know why it's floating over to the right side. It shouldn't be. That's set to... Oh, that's not holding the button. Let's change the width on this. It should be fixing that. Hey. It's okay. We'll just absolutely position this. 10 pixels down. Yeah, there we go. So it's still pretty accessible. I might get rid of some padding around this. Keep 10 pixels of padding on the right. And let's see what happens, what this looks like. Open. And now I want these to definitely be 100% width each. Cool. That looks good. And close it up. And for this hero section here, it'll be better to have these as like full width items instead. So what we're going to do is set this to be 100% width. And we're also going to set, well, not 1,000%, 100%. And it's inside of a container. We want this to be set to relative positioning instead. And it's going to be 100% width. Or maybe 90% width. And its height has to be like 300 pixels maybe. And we want that to sit above this container. What's going to happen if we flex this? Vertical reverse layout. This would have to be sitting inside of there. So I actually don't want any kind of flex styles in that container. I want that on the entire section. There we go. Vertical and reverse layout. This container is going to have 35 pixels, and the section is going to have 100 pixels, and I want it to sit to the right and make this like 75 pixels, 75% there. Cool. And we still have that nice slider. It's cropping quite a bit, so I might give this a little more height. Another way to give it height would be to instead give it padding. But then that would adjust this, and this, can we set it to just absolute? Yeah. So we can use padding instead. Well, why is that moving? It shouldn't be moving, technically, as far as I know. There's a lot of styles going on at this point. But let's do it by view width unit instead. So like 100 view width. A bit more. 110 view width, because then we see a lot more of the product. Looks really nice. Yeah, maybe a bit more width. Yeah. And this container, let's make this like 20. So I'm sure we've got a little, yeah, we've got quite a bit of margin on this. Fly above the clouds. Okay, cool. And let's change this to 25, 25. And so let's do 25. Cool, still got that image going. That's looking good. It's a little too much padding in here. Let's get rid of this bottom padding. This 25 and 25. Cool. And let's see, where's most of this coming from? Drink rows. Ah, there we go. Let's make this 25 instead of 75. There we go. So we've got the cocktails still, and they're nicely laid out. Could maybe get rid of this padding on the left here. And we can also make this right side element. Oh, we'll keep it at 42. It looks kind of nice. Yeah. And I'd like for the images to be like all the way to the left. So let's give it like a -10 margin. Yeah. I mean, most phones are going to be like closer to like this size here. So I might change like the ingredients column font size to like 3 view width. I'm going to have to select the actual paragraph, aren't I? Still adding all paragraphs. 14 pixels. That's still pretty visible. I might make, yeah, let's make the right side here a little bit smaller. Let's make it like 35% or 30%. Yeah, let's make it 30%. Let's move this on over. Cool. It's about centered-ish. Yeah. Cool. Looking good. Let's add some extra padding on this one. And At this point, I want to set these half blocks to 100% width. And we want to change this to be vertical. Cool. And this can be, we can center it again. Yeah. And I think we'll probably flip this layout. Yeah, let's flip it. Reverse, reverse. There we go. We want people to find that content first. And if that's the case, let's remove this style. And we can flex it again. Set this not to be so wide. These should have an auto height instead. Oh, okay. They should have, yeah, they already have an auto height on them. Let me think. Oh, we can just add some extra padding. Let's not get too crazy over here. Yeah, I can keep this centered. I like it centered. Pixels. Why did that? Oh, yeah. Because we styled it like that. Move it up. Oh, wait, let's just set it to relative positioning. And it doesn't need 200 pixels. It needs like 100. And let's just make this 100%. And set this to be flex, and maybe more like space between them. Might make them a little bit bigger. 42 by 42, because why not? They're nice touch targets, so let's make them nice. Cool. Okay, and I'm gonna adjust the padding on this, or the width on this guy to be, set it to 100% width. Set this search field to be 100% width. Cool. And set this to have 25 pixels. Or no, it looks good with 50. So this one has 50 down here. Let's set this to be 100%. No padding on the right. Set this to have a little bit more padding. Yeah. About 120. Looks good. Cool. So there we go. It's all responsive, looking good. Got the nice product features. Still debating on the width of this piece here, because we could go a little bit more width. Yeah, that looks nice. But then we'd want a little more height to it, but then you're kind of like missing part of the CTA. But I mean, the big CTA here is to watch that video. But yeah, now it's all responsive. We got a good looking page. I think it'd be nice to publish this. Yeah, we haven't published it. aviationgen.webflow.io. Let's check it out. Cool. We haven't added many animations to it. So I'll add a bit more, like where these will like float in. I'm gonna adjust this image because we really don't want to lose the top of it. Let's do that real quick. Let's change that style to be from the top. Publish. because it's okay if the bottom gets cut off a bit, but we don't want that top part to get cut off. Yeah. Cool. Very cool. Nice. Looking good. I might adjust the width of this bottom piece. Let's do like a, let's get rid of that left side padding because we want these to line up and set a max of like 250 pixels. Or no. Yeah, 420 pixels. And go. Cool, this still looks good. Nice and clean. Cool, there we go. So I'll do one more segment where I'm gonna add interactions, but now would be a good time for a break. So have a good one.